My family had openly looked down on me for years because I dropped out of college. When my father told me to get out of his birthday party, I said one thing that changed our relationship forever. I grew up in a middle-class area in Columbus, Ohio. The expectations were as obvious as they were traditional. College followed by a nice steady career. My father, who had worked as an accountant for the same firm for 3 decades, was convinced that a degree was the only way to succeed. My mother, an elementary school teacher, silently shared his sentiments. But even at age 10, I felt different. My siblings, Kevin and Sophia, were contentedly following the straight and narrow, whilst I was running an elaborate lemonade stand equipped with loyalty cards in various varieties. By the age of 14, I was fixing computers for neighbors at a quarter of the cost of the local stores. My folks simply saw them as adorable hobbies. "You needs to focus on academics," my father would say during supper. "These games won't pay the bills when she grows up." High school passed in a rush. My grades were good, but my true love was reading business books and following entrepreneurs online. While Kevin and Sophia piled up outstanding extracurriculars for college applications, I started an online company selling personalized phone cases that I developed myself. I earned about $2,500 before graduating. To please my parents, I enrolled in community college. A single semester. That was all it took to reinforce my gut instincts. This regimented setting, these instructors who had never run a real business. It all felt like a prison. When I addressed my parents about dropping out, the argument lasted several days. "You will throw your life away," my father yelled, his cheeks flushed. "No child of mine will be a college dropout working minimum wage jobs forever." Nevertheless, I left. I was 18 with only $2,500 saved from my many side hustles and ready to wager on myself. The first few months were terrible. I rented a little flat in a sketchy neighborhood, the type where you never did laundry after dark. I survived on ramen and inexpensive foods while working 18-hour days on my e-commerce site. My first 3 business ventures were all failures. I lost money in a dropshipping venture. My social media management service failed due to underpricing, and my handmade jewelry was unable to scale. Each failure felt like a hit in the belly, but it also taught me a hard lesson. I learned about supply chains, client contracts, and scalability through first-hand experience rather than textbooks. When I met Isabel, my life changed. She was 20 years older and had several successful exits under her belt. And she noticed something in me that my family never did. She became the mentor I urgently needed, providing me real business advice without passing judgment on my lack of a degree. "Education comes in many forms," she informed me over coffee. "Some of the most successful people I know learn by doing, not sitting in classrooms." At 21, I debuted my refined business plan with Isabel's guidance, an e-commerce platform that connected small American manufacturers with customers looking for locally manufactured products. The timing was ideal, riding a wave of enthusiasm for supporting small firms and home production. The early days demanded all. My modest apartment became a temporary office. My futon functioned as a couch, and I worked until 5 a.m. till 11 p.m., managing everything from website coding to customer support. 8 months had passed when the breakthrough happened. A well-known lifestyle blogger featured one of our artisan partners and orders came in. It was chaotic in the best sense. I worked for 72 hours straight, fulfilling orders and improving our website. That single feature generated $12,500 more than I'd ever seen in my account. I excitedly called my parents. My father responded with wary skepticism. "That's lovely, honey, but it's probably only temporary. You know you may always return to college once this thing has run its course." His words stung, but they also sparked fire. I'd show him wrong, not through arguments, but with undeniable success. The following 6 years were a world of constant expansion and new problems. My platform, Heartland Made, has grown from 27 artisan partners in 3 states to over 400 across all 50. Every step of development resulted in a new fire to put out. Our server failed during a large promotion. I remained up 48 hours with developers personally responding to consumer emails. A larger competition attempted to grab our top sellers. I drove to visit with each one, fostering relationships and boosting our commission. The most challenging period came in year 2, when cash flow nearly choked us. We were growing too quickly with inventory demands surpassing sales. I went without compensation for 4 months, downsized to an even smaller flat, and obtained longer payment terms. Those months taught me financial discipline, which will be important. Milestones added up. Our initial office had 3 employees and generated over $1 million in annual revenue. Following everyone's departure, I celebrated alone in my office with a single glass of champagne. Throughout it all, I kept my burgeoning success hidden from my family. They knew I had an internet business that was going well, but I was always downplaying its true size. Their first discouragement had built a barrier I couldn't overcome. Part of me hoped they'd ultimately ask thorough questions to demonstrate true curiosity, but such conversations never happened. Despite their lukewarm support, I never ceased assisting them financially. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in year 4, I discreetly paid the $75,200 in medical bills that her insurance could not cover. My father described a lucky insurance payout that saved them. He never suspected. My brother Kevin required $41,000 for a down payment on his home. I produced a family loan and a second account that appeared to be from a distant relative. He gladly accepted the money and continued to make comments about my need for a real job with benefits. My sister Sophia's fantasy wedding was dashed when her fiancé lost his job. I paid the $55,000 gap for the venue and caterers. Sophia knew the money was from me, but at family events, she'd downplay it by mentioning my small online firm, which had a successful year. The gap between my actual success and my family's perspective was causing a deep internal turmoil. By day, I was leading strategy meetings for a multi-million-dollar company, making decisions that impacted hundreds of partner businesses and negotiating with big retail chains. By night, I was receiving texts from family members who regarded me as if I were a college dropout who happened to get lucky with the internet. My company's headquarters grew to a full floor in a downtown office building with 37 full-time employees. Our valuation is $21 million based on a Business Insider profile. I retained majority ownership, even declining takeover proposals that would have made me wealthy but cost me control of my vision. As my father's 60th birthday neared, I reached a conclusion. It was time to be honest, not to brag, but to finally overcome the preconceptions and possibly win the respect I had been pursuing for years. I bought a significant gift, a fully funded retirement investment account, which I intended to present along with the truth about my company at his dinner. I prepped my speech the night before. I wasn't the same insecure 19-year-old anymore. I was a successful entrepreneur who provided possibilities for hundreds of American manufacturers and dozens of employees. Surely that would earn my father's respect and alter the way my family perceived my unique route. I couldn't have been more wrong. The evening of his birthday began well enough. Their residence has the same furniture and photos. The sole new item was a giant television Kevin had purchased, which was prominently displayed as his donation. My mother showed me her normal controlled tenderness, a short hug and pat. "You look nice. Did you cut your hair?" It was the same haircut I'd had for 3 years. Kevin and his wife arrived dressed smartly and exuded upper-middle-class status. Sophia and Matteo followed, and Sophia immediately began telling anecdotes about her rise at the accounting firm. "Following in Dad's footsteps, the partners are hinting I might make junior partner next year," she told me, youngest in firm history. I received no questions regarding my work during the pre-dinner chat. When Matteo suggested an e-commerce piece, Kevin quickly shifted the focus to his son's minor league accomplishments. Dinner was Mom's traditional pot roast served on fine china. My father, seated at the head of the table, accepted comments on his youthful appearance. "65 looks good on you, Dad," Kevin added, raising his glass. "Here's to another 20 years at least." Dessert was served and the timing felt right. I'd waited patiently for neighborhood gossip, Kevin's children's triumphs, and Sophia's vacation plans. Nobody had asked a single inquiry concerning my life. Dad, Mom, everyone. I said, my heart hammering despite my seeming calm. I wanted to share some news about my company. My father nodded immediately, reaching for another slice of cake. Heartland Made was recently valued at $21 million. I told you. We've received several acquisition offers, and I was featured in Business Insider and Entrepreneur magazine last month. The stillness that followed seemed interminable. My mother froze her fork halfway to her lips. Sophia shared a short, surprised look with Matteo. Kevin just stared. My father was the first to comment, and his tone was completely contemptuous. What exactly does that mean? These internet businesses use all sorts of funny math to come up with these valuations. I kept my cool, describing in simple terms how business valuations worked, our revenue streams, and our growth. I highlighted our office, 37 workers and connections with more than 400 American manufacturers. Kevin cut me off before I finished. "So you got lucky with this online thing?" "That's great, but some of us have been building real careers with actual qualifications." He stressed qualifications, and his wife nodded in agreement. "It's not luck. I said, my tone calm but forceful. It's 7 years of working 18-hour days, solving complex problems, building something meaningful. We've helped save dozens of American manufacturing businesses that were on the verge of closing. My mother eventually spoke, her tone uncertain. That sounds impressive, dear, though I still wish you had finished your degree. Even in this business, education is important. My patience was growing thin, but I pressed on. Actually, I brought something for Dad. I handed him an envelope holding the papers for the retirement account I had funded. I wanted to make sure you both had a comfortable retirement. My father opened it. Instead of appreciation, his cheeks heated, his expression darkening, resembling rage. What is this supposed to be? Some kind of charity? He dropped the papers on the table. We didn't raise you to throw money around like you're better than everyone. That is not my intention at all, I stated. I just wanted to help the same way I helped with Mom's medical bills, Kevin's house down payment, and Sophia's wedding. 3 heads raised at the same time. You? My father asked, his voice rising. That was all you? Sophia felt humiliated. Kevin's visage hardened into something unpleasant. My mother only looked puzzled. You've been secretly paying for things behind our backs. Playing the big shot with your internet money. I was just trying to help. I said, my voice lower than I intended. I never wanted recognition, I just wanted to support the family. Support, Kevin asked, scoffing, by making us feel like charity cases. Some of us work honest jobs with actual degrees, not getting rich quick with online schemes. It's not a scheme, I maintained, feeling the debate get out of hand. I built a legitimate business that helps American manufacturers. We employ dozens of people with good salaries and benefits. My father stood up, letting his napkin fall to the floor. You drop out of college against our advice, disappear into your little internet world, and now you come back throwing money around like you have all the answers. That's not what I'm doing, I argued, trying to keep my voice calm. You think your money makes you successful? He asked, his voice rising even higher. You are still just uneducated trash who got lucky. Anyone can get lucky. The room went silent. My mother gasped slightly, but she said nothing in my defense. Kevin stared down at his plate, a sickening smile playing on the corner of his lips. Sophia seemed caught between embarrassment and agreement. Henrik, my mother finally said, too late, and quietly, to matter. No, my father insisted now, completely agitated. I have worked my entire life the right way. I got an education, built a respectable career, raised a family. I will not be shown up in my own home by my dropout daughter. I arose slowly, collecting my handbag. I should go. Yes, you should, my father retorted. Get out of my house, you lowlife. Your money does not make you part of this family. We have standards. The words landed like physical blows. I examined each face around the table, looking for any ally or hint of support. There was none. Happy birthday, Dad, I replied quietly, heading to the door with all the dignity I could summon. Nobody followed me out. Nobody called after me. I got into my car, my hands shaking so much that I could scarcely grip the steering wheel. As I drove away from the house where I grew up, I realized something fundamental had broken, something that seemed beyond repair. My trip back to the hotel was a jumble of lamps and tears. I had to pull over twice because I was so overwhelmed. The horrible irony was not lost on me. I had a multi-million-dollar firm, but I was spending the night in a motel in my hometown because my family's home was no longer accessible to me. In the sterile silence of my hotel room, I repeated every statement and reply. Had I been overly proud? Had I misjudged our relationship all these years? The financial assistance now disclosed felt like a ridiculous attempt to buy acceptance that I could never obtain via my own achievements. I took out my laptop and began documenting every penny I had given my family. The list was extensive. $75,200 for Mom's cancer treatment, $122,000 for Kevin's home, and $55,000 for Sophia's wedding, not to mention Dad's car repair, Mom's kitchen remodel, and countless presents and emergencies, all handled discreetly via accounts designed to conceal their origin. A total of over $310,000 minus the retirement account he had recently rejected. Money given freely out of love to a family who had just labeled me as garbage. My phone lit up around midnight with a text from Sophia. Dad is still upset, but he will overcome it. You know how he reacts when his authority is challenged? There was no apology or acknowledgement of the awful things stated, just the assumption that I would accept the abuse and return to the family dynamic as if nothing had occurred. I did not respond. The following morning, I contacted a therapist. Family wounds cut deepest. Dr. Richardson noted especially when they target the very things we've worked the hardest to overcome. Over the following few days, she assisted me in understanding my success, undermined their hierarchy and values. My financial support, rather than earning gratitude, had sparked animosity by emphasizing a change in power that they were unable to accept. Your father's identity is built around being the provider and authority, she told me. Your success challenges both roles. I began journaling, chronicling trends from childhood's subtle ways. My entrepreneurial drive had been discouraged, how academic triumphs were recognized while commercial successes were downplayed, and the continual reminder that without a degree, I'd never really flourish. This method indicated how thoroughly I had assimilated the messages. Despite my outward success, a part of me still felt like the family failure, the dropout with something to prove. That explains my reticence to openly publicize my accomplishments and my ongoing financial support without recognition. A week after the awful supper, my sister called. I let it go to voicemail. Hi, May, please call back. Dad feels horrible, but you must realize how it appeared. You come in and basically show off your money. It was inconsiderate to those of us who had worked hard for our careers. I deleted the message. The plot twist was stunning. I had somehow become the villain for just stating the facts about my business after years of downplaying my accomplishment. My brother texted the following: "Family is family, let's go past this." Again, no apology, just the expectation that I would accept my assigned role and the treatment that accompanied it. 2 weeks after the dinner, I made a choice that felt both terrifying and freeing. I would choose self-respect above destructive familial relationships. My new home would be the beach house I had purchased as an investment property in Naples, Florida the previous year. Before leaving, I sent a letter to my parents, not an angry tirade, but a genuine confession of hurt and disappointment. Dear Mother and Father, I've spent years seeking your acceptance and respect. To avoid making anyone uncomfortable, I have provided financial assistance for our family while downplaying my achievement. Despite creating a $21 million firm that helps to maintain American manufacturing jobs, I've been made to feel like the family failure because I took a different path than you did. When Dad referred to me as illiterate trash and a lowlife, it exposed how you truly perceive me. No amount of accomplishment can ever alter that perception. I cannot continue to be involved in a relationship in which my worth is determined by credentials rather than character and achievement. I will always love you both, but I need to separate for my own well-being. I hope that eventually, we can repair our relationship on the basis of mutual respect. Love. I sealed the letter and mailed it personally. No response came. My executive assistant assisted me in arranging for the packing and shipping of my items in Ohio. Most of my furnishings and belongings I told her to donate. I desired a fresh start with minimum baggage, both literal and figurative. My company might be operated remotely. I had developed a solid leadership team that could handle day-to-day operations. As I boarded the plane to Florida, I had a strange mix of loss and freedom. The family I had worked so hard to please was behind me, but so was the pressure of seeking approval I would never receive. Naples, Florida welcomed me with warm sunshine and salt-scented air, a dramatic contrast to the gray Ohio winter I had just left behind. My beach house was a modern 2-story structure with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Gulf of Mexico. Standing on a secluded stretch of shoreline, it felt impersonal, similar to an upscale hotel. Making my house genuinely mine was a type of therapy. I replaced the generic beige bedding with homemade quilts by one of my Heartland-made craftsmen. Mass-produced art was replaced with original pieces by emerging American artists I met through the business. Each morning I awoke to the sound of waves and the sight of true creativity all around me. The kitchen was transformed next with open shelving to display handcrafted pottery and bright hand-woven linens to warm the space. Routines became crucial. Each morning began with a sunrise walk down the beach, gathering shells and watching dolphins soar through the surf. I discovered a neighborhood coffee shop and became a regular, greeted by name. Running the business remotely was easier than expected. Video conferencing replaced in-person meetings, and our systems ran efficiently without the daily drive or office distractions. I was more productive and made clearer judgments from my new quiet headquarters. After the first month, my executive team paid me a visit, and several of them noted how much my leadership style had improved. "You seem more centered, Julian," my operations director commented. "More confident in your decisions." He was correct. Without the pressure to seek family approval, my business instincts flowed more readily. I trusted my own judgment without the specter of my father's condemnation hovering over each decision. Community involvement became another anchor. I joined both a local chamber of commerce and a business women's networking organization. Unlike in Ohio, where I downplayed my success here, I was forthright about my company and accomplishments. Respect came naturally free of the baggage of who I was prior to my achievement. I befriended Margot, an art gallery owner who introduced me to her group of acquaintances. Brilliant women in their 30s and 40s who respected each other based on current accomplishments rather than previous qualifications. Our weekly dinner gatherings were filled with laughter and talks that never featured inquiries about my schooling or claims that I'd simply been lucky. Then came an unexpected visit. 3 weeks into my Florida residency, my brother Kevin showed up unexpectedly at my door one Saturday afternoon. "Nice place," he commented, whistling as he took in the seaside vista. "Really nice." His arrival was unsettling in my new refuge. He seemed out of place in his button-down shirt and pressed khakis against my casual coastal decor. "What brings you to Florida, Kevin?" I said, not offering a drink or a seat. "Family," he asked, flashing the same confident smile that had charmed our parents since we were little. "And I could use some advice about an investment opportunity, possibly a loan to get in on the ground floor." Some patterns were too predictable to be unexpected. Without my parents to watch, his illusions swiftly dissipated. This was strictly a financial visit. "I'm not making any loans to family members anymore," I stated firmly. "That chapter is over." His visage darkened. "So that's how it is. You move to your beach mansion and forget where you came from. Dad was right about you. Dad called me uneducated trash and kicked me out of his house," I told him later. "Is that what you came here to reinforce?" Kevin retreated fast. "He didn't mean it like that. You know how he gets. Family fights happen." "That was not a fight," I responded. "It was a revelation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have plans this afternoon." After showing him out, I sat on my terrace watching the surf, oddly unshaken by the experience. The boundaries I was establishing felt proper, even though they were difficult to implement. That evening, I made an important decision. I called my lawyer and set up an anonymous scholarship fund at the community college I had briefly attended. The Jaime Morrow Entrepreneurship Scholarship would offer complete tuition and mentorship to 5 students each year who displayed entrepreneurial potential but lacked standard academic advantages. Make sure the selection criteria focus on demonstrated initiative and creative problem solving, not grades, I told her. And find mentors who have built actual businesses, not just taught business classes. As the weeks passed, my place genuinely felt like home. I created a garden of native Florida plants that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds. I got Otto, a mixed-breed rescue dog, who joined me on beach walks and slept at the foot of my bed. His simple affection was a constant reminder of how relationships should feel. I experienced unexpected calm and solitude, free of the continuous looming fear of family criticism. I uncovered aspects of myself that had been overshadowed by stress. I took a pottery class and was lousy at it, but enjoyed the meditative process. I attempted paddleboard yoga, spending more time in the water than on the board, but laughing through each try. 3 weeks became a month and then 6 weeks. The anguish of familial rejection persisted, but it became less sharp, more like an old hurt that occasionally ached than a new wound. I was creating something fresh here, not simply a home, but an authentic existence based on my ideals rather than someone else's expectations. Then came an unforeseen revelation that would bring my family's narrative full circle in ways I never imagined. The Naples Business Journal was not a publication I usually read, but Margot texted me early one morning and insisted I get a copy. Page 3. "You're going to want to see this." There I was, pictured on my deck with the Gulf of Mexico behind me, with the headline, "E-commerce innovator brings multi-million-dollar business to Naples." The writer had done her research outlining Heartland Made's rise from startup to a $21 million valuation, our effect on American manufacturing, and my recent entrepreneurial scholarship foundation. The story presented a considerably more thorough image of achievement than anything I had seen in my hometown media. "I didn't authorize this," I informed Margot when she called to congratulate me. "Public records," she clarified. "Property transfers, business registrations. Once they knew you were here, the rest was easy to piece together. Besides, it's a great article." She was correct. The piece was well-researched and flattering, emphasizing business accomplishments. I didn't think much about it until the next week when my phone began to light up with social media notifications. The article was picked up by numerous larger business publications and then widely shared on LinkedIn and Facebook. Former high school classmates immediately recalled our bond. Teachers claimed they had always recognized my potential. The most startling messages came from small business owners in my hometown congratulating me for demonstrating what was possible without pursuing established channels. You motivated me to finally start my business, one wrote. Another said, if you can develop something that substantial without a fancy degree, then perhaps my proposal has validity as well. The local newspaper in my city even carried a condensed version of the article, with an additional angle: local entrepreneur has national influence. The irony was not lost on me. The same community that had discreetly reinforced my parents' disappointment suddenly recognized me as a hometown success story. My family eventually discovered the full depth of my accomplishment as a result of the media's ripple effect. The first hint was a friend request from my cousin Greta, followed by several additional extended family members who had previously expressed little interest in my life. Then my mother texted me. I saw the article about your company. Very impressive, my dear. Dad and I are quite proud. No mention of his unkind words, no acknowledgement of the schism, just a casual claim of pride that had been noticeably absent while I sat at their dinner table. My father's voicemail arrived the following day, his tone deceptively cheerful. Hi, May. Big news about your company in the paper. Always knew you had it in you. There seems to have been a misunderstanding last time we spoke. Call me back when you can. A misunderstanding. That was how he described calling his daughter illiterate trash and kicking her out of the house. 3 days later, my mother texted again. We are thinking of visiting Florida next month. I would love to see your new place. Let us know if that works for you. The message struck like a stone in my gut. 6 weeks of mending, of creating a new life free of their judgment, and now they wanted to simply show up at my door as if nothing had occurred. I did not answer immediately. Instead, I arranged an emergency appointment with Dr. Richardson. You have several options, she recommended. You can decline the visit entirely. You can agree, but set strict boundaries, or you can see this as an opportunity for honest conversation that might lead to healing, though that requires their willingness to acknowledge the harm done. After careful consideration, I wrote my mother, you and Dad are welcome to visit, but we need to have an open discussion about what happened at his birthday dinner before we can proceed. Please let me know whether you're open to that kind of conversation. Her response was quick. Of course, dear. We just want to get this behind us and be a family again. That language bothered me, the desire to put this behind us, without confronting it squarely. But I did confirm dates for their visit the following month. As the day neared, I prepared physically and emotionally. I arranged for them to stay at a neighboring hotel so that I could maintain my privacy. I role-played difficult conversations with Dr. Richardson to practice setting limits without becoming defensive. My parents arrived on a lovely Tuesday afternoon. I met them for lunch at a seaside restaurant, which provided a public atmosphere to help temper the initial meeting. They appeared smaller, less threatening than they did in Ohio. My father's confident demeanor seemed diminished, and my mother appeared more nervous than I remembered. Despite the coastal environment, they both dressed formally. My father in a button-down shirt and slacks, and my mother in a structured dress more appropriate for church than beach dining. This place is something else, my father observed, pointing to the turquoise water visible through the restaurant windows. You have done well for yourself. The subtle emphasis on yourself did not miss me, nor did the hint that my accomplishment existed outside of family values. Thank you, I said, simply, not breaking the tense silence that followed. My mother filled the space with small talk about their flight, the weather, and how different Florida was from Ohio. I responded respectfully, but minimally. Finally, once our meal arrived, my father cleared his throat. About what happened at my birthday dinner. You called me uneducated trash and a lowlife, I said, gently, keeping eye contact. You told me to get out of your house, and that my money did not make me part of the family. His cheeks reddened. I was surprised by the news about your business. I may have overreacted. This is not an apology, but an explanation. I need to understand. I continued. Was that reaction about me sharing my success, or about learning I had been helping the family financially? Both, my mother interjected. It felt like you were showing off, like you were saying, you're better than us now. I never said or thought that I explained. I spent years hiding my success to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. I helped financially because I could and because I wanted to support the family I love. My father shifted uncomfortably. Well, the way you presented it was very forward, and finding out you were behind those other things, it felt like charity we never asked for. The conversation remained in this vein throughout lunch. There was no genuine apology, only explanations and attempts to diminish the gravity of the situation. The subtext became clear. They were here because my public success made rejecting me socially awkward, not because they had reevaluated their beliefs. As we finished lunch, I came to a decision. I'd like to show you my home, But first, I need to be very clear about something. I will not pretend the dinner never happened. I will not accept being called names or having my choices denigrated. If you want a relationship moving forward, it has to be based on mutual respect. They exchanged glances, and my father nodded stiffly. That seems reasonable. When they arrived at my beach property later that afternoon, their expressions as they took in the sweeping ocean view said it all. This tangible evidence of my success could no longer be dismissed or minimized. The $21 million valuation was no longer abstract, but reflected in coastal real estate and quiet elegance. This is quite something, my father said, his voice tense. Would you like a tour? I offered, guiding them through the house and pointing out the handcrafted pieces from Heartland-made artisans that adorned each room. In that moment, I realized something profound. Their acceptance, which I had craved for so long, no longer held the same power. I was proud of this home and the company that made it possible. Regardless of how they reacted, that realization was the most valuable outcome of their visit. The conversation that followed on the terrace as the sun set over the Gulf, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, was difficult but necessary. I want to be clear about something, my father said, his tone more conciliatory than I had ever heard. I am sorry for what I said at my birthday. It was uncalled for, regardless of how surprised I was. While the apology was appreciated, it was tempered by the qualification that softened its impact. His focus remained on his shock, rather than the harm he had caused. What hurt most, I said quietly, was that those words revealed how you truly see me despite everything I have built. My mother reached across the table without quite touching my hand. We have always been proud of you, Hamie. We just worried about your future without a degree. My future is here, I said, gesturing to the home and the business that made it possible. I built it without a degree, but with 7 years of relentless work. That deserves respect, not condescension. My father shifted again. The business world can be fickle. Companies rise and fall overnight. We just wanted security for you. I understand that concern comes from love, I replied. But there is no guaranteed security in any path. Many people with degrees struggle, while others without formal education thrive. What matters is recognizing that there are multiple valid paths to success. The conversation continued for hours without dramatic reconciliation or emotional embraces. Instead, we reached a tentative understanding, a beginning rather than an end. Moving forward, I said as the evening concluded, I am open to rebuilding our relationship, but with firm boundaries. I will not accept being demeaned for my educational choices or having my success reduced to luck. My parents agreed, though my father's smile remained tight. My mother seemed more reflective, perhaps recognizing her role in enabling the family dynamic. After they returned to Ohio, I reflected on the visit and the journey that brought me here. Healing was far from complete, but meaningful progress had been made. In the months that followed, I limited contact with my parents to weekly calls, which slowly became less strained. My relationship with my siblings evolved differently. Sophia eventually offered a genuine apology, and we cautiously rebuilt an adult relationship. Kevin remained distant, offering occasional holiday messages without addressing the harm done. My own healing continued through therapy. Dr. Richardson helped me recognize how family trauma had shaped my drive for validation through achievement and financial generosity. Success is not a substitute for self-worth, she reminded me, and family approval cannot be bought. That realization led me to set stronger boundaries in all relationships. I grew more comfortable speaking openly about my success without minimizing it. I learned to give out of genuine generosity rather than a need for acceptance. The Entrepreneurship Foundation became the center of my philanthropic efforts. Beyond scholarships, I launched a mentorship program connecting successful entrepreneurs without traditional credentials to students facing similar barriers. Watching their growth brought deeper fulfillment than any family validation ever had. My circle of friends in Naples expanded into a chosen family built on respect and authenticity. Our weekly gatherings filled a void I hadn't known existed. The beach house continued to evolve, each room reflecting my values and identity. The garden flourished. Otto gained a companion when I adopted Freya, a senior retriever others had overlooked. Running Heartland made remotely proved so effective that I expanded flexible work policies company-wide, boosting productivity and employee satisfaction. 1 year after moving to Florida, I hosted a dinner party for my new friends. As we sat on my deck watching dolphins play in the sunset, I reflected on how far I'd come. From that painful night at my parents' table, to this life of chosen connection, Margot raised a glass to having the courage to choose respect over obligation. Her toast captured the lesson of my journey. Family matters, but not at the cost of dignity. Success is not measured by degrees, but by impact and integrity. Most importantly, I learned that forgiveness does not require forgetting or enduring continued harm. True forgiveness means releasing resentment while maintaining healthy boundaries. My story, like all stories, continues to unfold. My relationship with my parents remains complex, sometimes improving, sometimes slipping back. I hold my boundaries with compassion and firmness, accepting that full understanding may never come, but refusing to sacrifice my self-worth in pursuit of it. If my experience proves anything, it is that your value is not defined by others' judgments, especially when rooted in outdated beliefs. Success takes many forms, often unexpected, and the most painful rejections can lead to the most authentic and fulfilling futures.